Chapter 28 Saving Miranda. Just to be clear, Aghanim, Lord Vyre said as he slowly advanced, after I defeat you, I am going to shackle you to a chair right next to hers, so that you can watch the last bits of light fade from her eyes. And then I will do the same to you. Stop talking, the robed wizard ordered in response. You forfeit your life the moment you put your decrepit hands on my girl, so the only thing I have to say to you is, Hichizo! A flash of white shot out from Aghanim's hands, but the winged monster was able to avoid it by taking to the air, making the spell disperse harmlessly against a bookcase. Vyre then swooped down towards him, but the robed wizard vanished, reappearing across the room in order to try and free Miranda before the winged creature could circle around and come back. This happened a lot faster than Aghanim had guessed, only being able to free one of Miranda's hands before having to drop down to avoid being grabbed. Unfortunately, the floor was not low enough to keep the claws from finding their way into his robe, and they hooked into his skin as well, making the robed wizard cry out as Vyre lifted him into the air. The winged monster carried him right out of the palace window and a good distance away from the wall before dropping him, but Aghanim vanished once again the moment that the claws were released. Now it was Vyre's turn to cry out as the robed wizard reappeared just above him, landing on the winged monster's back and wrapping his arms around its wings so that they could no longer flap. The result was Vyre screaming as they plummeted toward the ground, but Aghanim vanished right before they hit, making the winged creature slam into the ground and slide to a stop across the jagged rocks, while the robed wizard reappeared safely a short distance away. Vyre's face and torso were bloodied, with arms shaking as he tried to get to his feet, only to get a close look at Aghanim's closed fist as he was getting up, making the winged creature fall onto its back. "You'll pay for that," Vyre yelled as he jumped to his feet. "No mortal has ever defeated Lord Vyre." "Well, I'm gonna change that," Aghanim yelled back. "I'm coming for you, Vyre!" The winged creature roared as they ran at each other, but Aghanim vanished right before they would have clashed, and Vyre immediately turned around while making a wide slash with his claws in preparation for him to reappear behind him. Instead, Aghanim reappeared in the same spot that he had vanished from, giving him a chance to kick Vyre in the lower back, making the winged creature fall on his face once again. Now furious as he jumped back up, Vyre leapt at him while making a wild swing that would have certainly cleaved the robed wizard's head off. In response, Aghanim dropped down into a squatting position as the claw passed over him, and then he jumped up again, slamming his head into Vyre's chin with all of his might. The winged creature's head reeled back as he stumbled away, but the robed wizard was nowhere near done with him. Leaning to the side to avoid another slash, Aghanim came back with a punch in the creature's throat, making Vyre gasp as the attack continued. Now driving the winged creature back a couple steps with each hit, the robed wizard punched and kicked him in the head and torso until he was standing on the very edge of the rocky land. "Hichizo!" Aghanim yelled, aiming his hands toward Vyre. This time, the winged creature couldn't avoid the flash of light, letting out a scream as the spell engulfed him, and when the light faded, Lord Vyre was nothing but a harmless, gelatinous bot. The battle was over, and no matter how much Vyre jumped around in rage, he was essentially helpless. Now, normally, Aghanim would have been content to leave the formerly winged creature there, but he had hurt the robed wizard's crush, so he pulled back his leg and gave the gelatinous creature a hard kick. Vyre made a kind of squeaking sound as he was sent flying over the edge and down toward the water, and for a moment Aghanim almost felt bad when he remembered the bots were unable to swim. The gelatinous form quickly vanished beneath the waves, and the robed wizard kicked a small rock into the water after it before turning back toward the palace. 2 teleports later, he was back inside the chambers, working quickly to free Miranda's legs and other arm from the chair. "Aghanim?" she said weakly as he was finishing. "Aghanim, I don't feel well." "Try not to talk, Miranda," he replied, picking her up. "You've lost a lot of blood." She was pale, and her breathing was quick and labored, while her attempts at talking were little more than low mumbles. The robed wizard wished that he was able to heal her as he could himself, but the spell just didn't work that way. What she needed was the life potion, but he had used the last of it on Impa, meaning that he would have to find the ingredients to make more. Just about to leave, Aghanim realized that the mask and other belongings were still on the floor, so he gathered them up and put them in his pockets.
The chest,
Miranda whispered.
Don't forget Zelda's chest.
I already have it, the robed wizard replied while picking her up. Now hold on to me. Miranda's grip was weak as she put her arms around his neck, and then he ran for the window, leaping out and then reappearing as far away from Snake Palace as he could. It was going to be a stretch, but trying to teleport all the way back to the mainland was the fastest way to get her to safety. Having started from much higher up, he had a little extra leeway for resting mid-air, and this was probably what made him able to just barely make it to the shore of Port Hylia a few minutes later. Hold on, Miranda, he said, trying to catch his breath while carrying her toward the merchant quarter of the city. Just try to stay awake, all right? She mumbled something in response, but he couldn't understand, so Aghanim decided to let her rest and ran faster toward the first shop he saw. From the ingredients and bottled liquids displayed in the window, he could tell that this was the right place, and there was lantern light coming from inside, so the robed wizard simply let himself in. And by letting himself in, he meant looking through the window and then vanishing, only to reappear inside the shop a moment later, startling the shopkeeper so badly that the older man literally jumped up from the ledger he had been writing in. What? How? What? The shopkeeper stammered. What is the meaning of this? No time, Aghanim yelled while setting Miranda down on the counter. I need life potion ingredients right now, and yes, I'll kill you for them. The old man stepped back a little before looking down at the injured Miranda, and sighed before walking over to the shelves. Life potion was fairly simple to make, provided one had the right ingredients, and thankfully the shopkeeper did. The older man then watched as Aghanim cut and portioned up the ingredients without anything to measure their amounts with, and the robed wizard smiled when the water he used to mix them up turned blue. If there had been more time, he would have made a more potent version of the potion known simply as red, but Miranda didn't have that kind of time, so the blue version would have to do. The effect was immediate, the small punctures on her neck closing so that only small scars remained, and some of the color came back to her cheeks, but then the potion's effectiveness ran out. She would still be weak, but it was nothing a little rest wouldn't fix, so he picked her up, nodded to the shopkeeper, who nervously nodded back, and then vanished, reappearing back in the street. Hopefully the man was smart enough not to raise the alarm, and this was confirmed when they had made it to the end of the street without anyone shouting for the guards.
I feel a little better.
Glad to hear it, Aghanim replied, turning the corner toward the inn. And after a good night's rest, you'll be good as new. Soon he had reached the inn, where he vanished, immediately bringing them through the open window and setting Miranda down on her bed. Next, he placed her belongings, along with the recovered chest, under the bed with the others, and with a final move of closing the window and drawing the curtains, the robed wizard was able to breathe a sigh of relief. They were safe. The chest had been recovered, Vyre was at the bottom of Lake Hylia, and most importantly, Miranda was alive. We should be all right now, he said, walking back over to her. You get some rest, and in the morning we can take these chests to Impa. Huh. Link must be worried to death about me by now.
Aghanim,
Miranda replied, turning her head to look at him.
Thank you for saving my life. You were so brave and courageous the way you took on Vyre, and I liked it when you said I was your girl.
They smiled at each other as Aghanim leaned over to give her a gentle kiss before pulling the blankets up to her chest, and then she fell asleep, starting to snore before he had even finished. So he gave her another kiss on the forehead before walking over to sit in a nearby chair, and it was only seconds later that the robed wizard was asleep as well.